I think you've got to let those guys play out their outros, don't you? You just do. Good evening, everybody. You are with the three of us. I'm Ali. We've got Kim and Stephen. Say hello, boys.
Oh, you
Hello,
pointed
boys.
to him as if it was Stephen. I was like, oh, you've got us wrong way around already.
No. Doing double hand gesture.
That's enough of that.
Hello.
Hello. You're joining
Welcome.
us here on a Wednesday evening, a lovely sunny Wednesday evening here in Rockingham, Australia. Hello, everyone around the world, if you are listening around the world. And we are working on a new show tonight. We are currently calling Tea Time.
Tea time. Spill the tea.
Exactly.
I like it.
Yeah, so we've got three people here of diverse, backgrounds. So, round the table, how do we all identify, gentlemen?
Well, I'll kick off. I identify as he, him, and gay. What else would you like to know?
Oh, hair colour, height.
No, I don't even know my
Preferences?
height. I don't know. Well, I prefer men.
How do you not know your height?
I don't know my height. I've never known my height.
I have people to do that for me.
I know other
I go to the
measurements
doctor
of
and get
things, but not my height.
I don't know about that.
Well, you could do shoe size then if you
That's
want.
right.
Would
I'm
that be better?
definitely 10 and a half. There you go. I know that.
You know what they say about guys with big feet.
Big
They have to buy
socks.
big shoes.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, you have to
See,
get them custom made. and
we're
some
1
work.
minute in and we're already in the sexual innuendo space. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, how do you identify?
Me, Ali, I identify as a man who likes men.
Oh my God, that's like me.
It's like you. We're not as diverse as we had hoped.
I think I'm in the wrong room.
He said it as if we should have been shocked. Like, that's what
Do I?
happens when you're the same as me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And I'm Kim, and I identify as he, him, and I'm actually transgendered.
Right. Well, we'll
And I like girls.
all right. So we can dissect that later, I think.
Why not dissect it now?
Well, we can.
Do you have something better to do?
Well, I just didn't want to go straight in, but we can.
Kim, do you mind?
No, go for it.
Great, let's dive on Kim. Dog pile, go.
Hey!
I'll be back.
Now, we know something interesting about you. You have a little claim to fame, don't you? That you are maybe, what was the number? Number 11.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep. So I transitioned probably about 20 to 25 years ago, and at the time, I was the 11th female in Perth that wanted to transition to male.
Wow.
Yep.
That's just like, you can't, like, because it's so, it's happening so much now, and it must be like, oh my God, back then. So what was the experience for you back then, and how did it all start, the process?
Well, it was a bit weird because, I always grew up when I was young, always sort of didn't really fit in, didn't want to play with the girls, didn't want to play skippy and elastics and all that. So I wanted to be out there on the oval kicking the footy with the boys and running around and all that sort of stuff. I remember as a young child, like laying in bed at night thinking, please God, please make me a boy.
So what age were you when you were thinking that though?
Quite young, like
Wow.
primary school. And then obviously, you get to your teenage years and you start to go through puberty, and that's when I sort of realised that God wasn't going to be helping me out. So, you
He
try
had
and
his
fit
chance.
in. You put that mask on to try and fit in with what society's expectations of how you should behave as a female. And obviously raised, and my mum was very strict. Oh, you wear dresses and you wear this, and going to school, you had to wear dresses to school.
Did she at least have good taste?
No,
No.
not really, no.
Right off the idea anyway, wouldn't it?
Well, anything that was female to me was, I didn't want to have a bar of it. Wasn't interested at all. And my mum, she's very old school, so she wasn't interested in buying me the boys' clothes or getting shopping in the boys' section. So I pretty much had to try and fit in, like I said, with society's expectations of who I should be because I look female.
Did you ever rebel by, cutting your skirts shorter or something like that? Did you cut the sleeves off or
No, but I do remember in high school that I used to, because high school was a little bit more less rules, so girls could wear pants to school. So I used to take my pants in my school bag.
Very
And
progressive.
then, change on the way to school, and so I'd rock into school with pants and a shirt on.
So there was always still like a sense of a double life going on, wasn't
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
there? In a way, I think you and I can relate to the whole double life thing, except not to the same extent, not living in a different person's body. That's a different kettle of fish. Is that akin to how it feels, that description?
Well, back then I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
I had no
That's
idea.
why I asked you what age, because even I know it's different, but I didn't know I was gay until I could really explore, and it was in high school, so that I was just intrigued to know that. And I had signs, and I'm sure everyone has little things that they look back on and they go, "Oh, that makes sense now." But
it does.
I didn't pray to God and go, "Oh, please make me straight." Do you know what I mean? Did you?
I did. I actually went through a whole religious excursion, like to just find, okay, someone's going to help me out with this. Prayed to several deities. You know what I mean? Like went through, like, no, okay, then I'll give you 2 weeks. All right, Buddha, 2 weeks. And if you don't do anything, I'm moving on to the next one. But no, I did the religious thing as well. Where else do you go?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, look, like I said, I grew up knowing that there was something different about me, that I didn't really fit in. And it wasn't until, I guess, when I was late teens, like early 20s, and then I met this girl, and it changed my whole life. I was actually engaged to a guy to get married, and I'd been with him for 7 years, and I was at the lady's house picking the flowers for the wedding when I met her sister, and that was it. It was, like I met her that night. The next night I went and had a chat to her because I had to drop the money off for the flowers. And then she went away for a week, and I was telling my mum, this is really strange. I've met this girl, and it's like somebody's cut my arm off. I've never felt like this. Wow. And it took a bit of a while for it to sort of kick in. She sort of came back because I was living at Geraldton at the time, country town. And then I just had these feelings because she moved in, was a housemate, and in the end I just wrote a letter saying, look, I've got these feelings, and as it turned out, she was bi, so we actually started a relationship. So she was my very first girlfriend, and that's when I thought, well, I must be a lesbian, I must be gay.
Yeah.
So then I started hitting the scene in Perth, and then I went to uni, and I was doing a psychology degree, and I was doing sexology as my minor with Dr. Gabrielle Morrissey, who was the love doctor on 96 Point back in the days, yeah? And I think she might have opened my eyes to it because sexology covers everything from, anxiety and performance anxiety right through to everything else. So it kind of came up, and that's when I realised, shit, I'm not gay, I'm actually trans. Because I've kind of always had a bit of thing for girls. Like even when I was a teenager, I had a crush on my best friend, although I would never have acted on it because, look, back then, my only experience of lesbians was watching Prisoner.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, and I did not associate with Frankie in Prisoner. Yeah. And sort of as soon as I thought, I'm a lesbian, I'm attracted to girls, that image was in my head. Oh, my God, I don't want to be like that. I don't want people to look at me like that.
Any other references, then that's it. That's what they are. And if you don't fit with that, then you're back to square one. So I guess in some way you're probably willing to make a few compromises, like, well, you just shoehorn yourself into fitting the closed image that you have. Yeah. It's such a kind of a sweet story, though. I mean, you found love. Wait a minute. Does this mean that you are in some way now related to the guy that you were engaged to?
No, definitely not.
No.
How did we get there?
No. No.
As soon as I realised what was going on, I was like, oh no, you're out. Because, I mean, look, we were more mates than anything else. We used to go out surfing and motorbike riding and running amok and just having a good time, So, but that was my way of fitting in and doing what society expected. You grow up, you get married, you have kids, da-da-da-da-da.
I got the relationship wrong.
Oh, yeah,
I
it wasn't.
That man was the brother of the girl who you ended up...
No. I was at the lady that was going to do the flowers for the wedding.
Right.
It was her sister. Yeah, totally unrelated.
So I didn't say, I misunderstood something else, and I thought he said his mum was bi, and I was going to go there, but then he cleared that up.
No, she's definitely straight. But as far as I know, I'm the only queer person in my family. When I came out originally as being a lesbian up in Geraldton, my mum said, because I've got a sister that's 2 years older than me, and she's got 2 daughters. So my mum said, well, look, don't tell your sister or you'll never see your nieces again because they're very religious. And she said, don't tell your dad because he'll kill you.
Right.
So when I told my dad, he goes, well, I already knew. And then I didn't say anything to my sister, but when I left Geraldton because the relationship broke down, and I said to my sister, oh, look, I'm going to move to Perth. And she said, oh, you're taking your girlfriend with you? And I went, oh, didn't know you knew.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's obvious to other people if we don't.
Well, it's always the
ourselves.
ones you think that will always react the worst that actually don't react that badly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly.
Grandparents,
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
especially.
old, set in their ways, but no. Most of them they've been around, they've seen enough. They're okay with everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, my
I gotta
nana
s-
was awesome. She lent me the money to get my chest surgery done.
Oh wow! I've got a story about my grandma, but I'll save that because it's a good one actually.
I had a weird one recently where now my brother, right? Such a teddy bear. He's great. He's just I don't know. He's such a dad. He's a stay-at-home dad. He took his wife's name. He's a pretty like new agey sort of guy. Real cuddly. Great. And on board with having a gay brother. But the other day he asked me about my friend. Yeah, my long-term boyfriend.
Yeah.
Of several years, and he referred to him as my friend, and that really got under my skin. Have you had that happen?
All
to
the
you?
time, especially
nuts, right?
no, actually not all the time. My grandma, that's what she does. You're bringing your friend. Where's your friend?
Kind of cute when it's a grandma, though.
No, but it's how
it
she
not?
says it. How's your friend? And I always go, what are you two talking about? Like, oh, my boyfriend. Oh, I suppose, yeah.
I correct people on that. I insist on boyfriend. I spent long enough growing up not being able to have one. I'm
Yeah.
making up for lost time. So now when everyone says partner, I'm like, no. Check
my
that
boyfriend,
clinical
yeah.
stuff at the door.
Yeah.
Boyfriend, please, because I like to have one now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have to worry about that because I married my lady.
So I'm the only one that's single.
Currently.
Oh, no.
Yeah, for now.
If you're listening.
Run.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, actually, yeah, I would say that anyway.
There's a danger, though. There's a danger in a small town like Perth, right? Because you can very quickly run out of options. Just say,
Try
I live
living
in
in a country
Mandurah.
town.
Yeah, exactly. I come from Pinjarra. You're from,
Yeah.
It can get worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
we're all from far-flung places, right?
Where were
I
you
grew
from?
up in Karratha.
Oh, right.
So we played Skippy growing up as well, but it was a different game. Yeah, who gets to bleed down the well this time? It's usually me. Always getting rescued by some kid just tutting at me. It's ridiculous. Now, where are you from?
Pinjarra.
Yeah, original.
Born and bred.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Wow.
I was born in Pinjarra Hospital, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was it doesn't seem like it's a country town now though. It's weird. Like it's a bit like Mandurah. Mandurah used to be,
It's got a
the
dome.
retirement village of,
It's got a dome
Spreading.
cafe in it.
Oh, what's got a dome? Yeah, it does
Yeah.
still have a dome. We don't have a dome anymore in Mandurah. I think it's gone now, hasn't it? Yeah. It's
No,
gone.
Pinjarra's stolen all its...
Pinjarra's got the dome, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Practically
Pinjarra was actually
cosmopolitan.
not. Do you know what everyone goes? Oh, Pinjarra, grew up in Pinjarra, but I actually didn't have a really bad experience I wasn't out at school, but
You were obvious.
everyone knew.
Yeah.
So, but actually, everyone was pretty good. But in saying that, I was the muso at school. So I was the one that was at the assembly singing and playing the instruments, and all the teachers, I was teachers, they loved me, and the principal loved me. So I was like, I had this layer of protectiveness the whole time. So I was kind of in that, and I was like, I'm going with it, and it did well for me. But there was other people at my school I felt a bit more sorry for, and I wish I could go back and help them a bit more, because I was kind of just trying to ride my own wave with that being in Pinjarra. But yeah, I don't know how we got there.
I don't
How
know
what's
that.
Karratha like?
Oh,
I don't think
Karratha
I've
was a
ever been
lovely
to
place
Karratha. Have you been to Karratha?
Yeah.
Of course you
Pretty flat.
Very flat.
It's like the big
Yeah.
sausage, isn't it?
Yes, it is actually.
The road
Oh.
come in and it's like the big loop road's like a big sausage. Just go wee round.
I'm not touching that one.
Probably a
Better
good
make
thing.
a change. Yeah. No, a lovely place actually. Lovely place to grow up. There were emus in the backyard, and Cyclone season we all looked forward to.
Yeah, that would be a big one.
It was great. It was the only time you saw clouds. It's terrific.
It's all happening here.
Secret business.
Got pissed. Yeah, you can't see that.
But
It's all G-Rad.
okay, there were incidents, and I think if I had been there any longer than I was, because we just sort of left at the time when being a bit effete, was maybe excusable for a kid, and kids weren't really tuned in to what was going on, and so they hadn't taken a side yet. They hadn't really come down hard on either side. But if I'd stayed there any longer, like a high school in that place would have been an absolute nightmare.
I see you left before you went to high school.
Yeah, luckily. Well, I say luckily, but then I talked to my brothers about it. I have done in the past, and they said that being a teenager in that town was the most boring thing you can imagine. Because once you lose your imagination, right, there's only so much you can do with rocks. And spin effects.
And sticks.
Yeah, right. As a kid, you could just roam the bush until all hours of the day, and it was a fantastic playground. But as a teenager, they would just get up to hijinks and steal booze and do...
Yeah.
It's rubbish. Anyway.
Okay, so we got off track here. So you... 16... Where were we at?
So, I spent my first 18 years of my life in Sydney. I don't like saying I grew up in Sydney because I don't ever want to admit that I've grown up. You have to get older, but you don't have to grow up.
Oh, I think you're going to say you don't want to admit you grew up in Sydney.
Yeah,
no, you grew up, I see.
Yeah, so I lived in Campbelltown, which is 60k southwest of the centre of Sydney. So one of the not so affluent suburbs of Sydney. But yeah, my folks moved over when I was 18. So I just finished year 11 in New South Wales, come over, and they moved from Campbelltown in New South Wales to Geraldton, which to me was like the middle of nowhere. There was nothing there.
Still is.
Yeah, and because I just finished year 11 in New South Wales, the subjects didn't line up, so I had to do year 11 again. So I did year 11 and 12. By the time I left school, I was 20. So I was the only kid that could drive a car to school and park in the teacher's car
20?
Because I didn't have P plates. No, they used to call me, because I was still a girl back then, so I used to get called Grandma because I used to always get on the bus and sit on the back seat first. So there were a lot of privileges and stuff being a bit older. The other thing was, because I was smoking back then, so... I'd be in the toilets having a cigarette, and Miss Haythornthwaite, the deputy principal would come in and she'd go, "Who's in there?" And I'd say, "Oh, it's me, Miss Haythornthwaite." And she'd go, "Is there anybody else in there with you?" And I go, "No." And she goes, "Okay, hurry up."
Oh, nice.
So, thank you, bye.
I'm surprised that you didn't just make friends with some of the teachers. Wouldn't that be a bit... That'd be funny, like the two of you just behind the bleachers. Kids.
Do you know what, though? Speaking about teachers at school, because I was like... I hate saying I was a teacher's pet, but the principal loved me because I played the trumpet and I was always doing this and doing that, and I'd sing at all the assemblies. So I always have these privileges. So but I never wanted to go and do sport. I hated sport.
I love sport.
It was the worst. I think it was more of a fear thing because I didn't want to be, because all we do in our sport class, our sport teacher was a bit of a, "Oh, this is what we're doing. We're going to go play footy, and that's what you're doing for every time." I was like, "Are you kidding me? Can we not do something else?" And I hated football. And so I used to just go hang out in the music room and just wag. And then I never went to a sport class ever. I just refused to go. I was the only one in the school that was allowed to get away with it. Everyone else was like, "How did he get to do it anyway?" But
PE was my favourite subject. Again, being... a bit of a tomboy. I was a fast runner. I was strong. The other girls didn't stand a chance. I was the school athletics champion in Campbelltown, and I was also the senior girls cross country runner. And there's actually a trophy, an inaugural trophy in their cupboard with my name on it on the senior girls.
So on that topic there, no, I might go there. What is your stance on trans people in sport?
Yeah, that's a tricky one, and I was talking to somebody about it earlier, and look, I get that people wouldn't like somebody that was born male, has transitioned to female, playing against women. However, if you know anything about transgender, it's a thing. If they're taking the hormones,
That's
those
right.
hormones are going to feminize,
Yeah.
their muscles. It moves all the fat around. It doesn't change the chemistry of your body, but it changes the way your body does things. So somebody that's been on estrogen or female hormones for a while is obviously their skin's going to be softer, their muscle tone's going to be less, so they're going to be on a par with women. If you look at some of the women in sport, some of them are huge, like those Chinese athletes a few years ago. They're huge.
Yeah.
Even the men wouldn't stand a chance against those guys.
Do you know what's interesting, though, on this topic? I find that I agree with that, and I try and explain that to people, but they just dismiss me, but whatever. Is that
But now you've got a platform, and they can't do that.
Yes. We're just going to go with it. But trans... It seems to be that people that transition from male to female is in the spotlight. But I was listening to a podcast that there are people that transition from male to female that compete in the female. I've got it the wrong way round. You know what I mean, don't you?
Yes.
There are
Confuse
girls that
myself.
transition to boys that play in
They're
male
now
sports.
playing male sports, but there's no spotlight on them.
Hoo-ha. Yeah.
And they're probably winning, if not, because they've got they're taking hormones again,
Yep.
aren't they? The testosterone, all that kind of stuff. So,
Do you get the impression that they will be more readily accepted by the other athletes and then the wider community because of their lead than the other way around? It's weird.
that doesn't make sense to me. If you're gonna whinge about that, we'll whinge about the other side too. They're like, oh no, that's not because they're originally men, and men are bigger, and men are stronger, and men are this, and men are that, and I'm like, I'm not that strong, and I'm not that great.
Exactly, and that's part of my point.
Yeah, I know.
Look, even when I was female, I could still outrun some of the boys. I could still lift heavier things than some of the boys, and that's when I was still female. So, but the other thing is, once I started with the testosterone, so the hormone therapy, I was doing one-arm chin-ups. I felt like Superman.
Wow.
So the hormones make a really big difference.
So you're a prime example. You going into sport now, you wouldn't have the spotlight on you, I wouldn't say.
No, but then again, like I said, the hormones for females transitioning to males, the hormones are awesome. I mean, you only got to look at me with, my bald head and my...
Well, I'll tell you what, I
and
never would have known.
my voice. So anybody that looks at me wouldn't even give me a second thought. They'd just walk past me like
No
I was
joke, I would
any
never
other
have known.
bloke. However, unfortunately, with older guys that decide that they want to transition to
Yes.
female, they've already gone through puberty. Their
Yep.
facial hair's already coming out.
Yep.
That's going to keep happening. Their voice has already dropped. That you can't take that back.
Right, and this goes to that issue that we were talking about just earlier this afternoon,
Yeah.
where the advent of taking the hormones has a dramatic effect.
Absolutely.
On the
Even the
success.
puberty blockers,
Yeah.
until the person reaches that age when they're adult, considered adult, and they can make their own decisions about what they want to do with their body, then it's a lot easier to transition if you're had those hormone blockers, because as a female the breasts don't develop. And, I had to borrow $6,000 off my nana to get my breasts removed. If I had have had access to the puberty blocking hormones, my chest surgery would have been so much easier. It would have been so much cheaper, less recovery time, less going back in for revisions and all that sort of stuff.
Okay, so two questions then. If you can't trust your caregivers to back you up when you know that this is the thing that you need, how soon should you be able to get around the parental consent guidance thing? And also, how young do you think people can readily recognize themselves that they are trans?
Well, look, mate, everybody's different, hey, and that's why you've got to jump through all the hoops and go and see the psychologist and go and see the endocrinologist and do all of that stuff. You don't just walk into the doctor's surgery and go, I've decided I want to be a girl now, and the doctor goes, no worries, here's some hormones, off you go.
Right,
It doesn't
obviously
work
not,
like that.
right.
It's a very long process. I was very fortunate because most of my life I'd tried to live that masculine. Like I always wore male clothes. Once I was old enough to make my own decisions, I quite often I get people coming up to me thinking I was a guy. And as soon as I opened my mouth and they heard my girly voice, it was like, oh, is there any guys around that can help me out? I was working at Bunnings at the trade counter serving builders. And as soon as I open my mouth, they go, oh, is one of the boys here? And it was like, no, you're stuck with me. But once they get to know you and they know that you know what you're doing, then it becomes more acceptable. So it's just, look, I've found in my experience, if you're confident in yourself and you're open about it, a lot more people are going to come on board. But if you're secretive and you feel like this is something that you have to hide, that's when you become a target, and that's when people go, oh, you're not doing the right thing, and then you feel shamed about it. You know, like I say, at the end of the day, everybody's different. Everybody, you know, some people will decide when they're younger, in those teenage years, oh yeah, I've thought about being a boy, I want to be a boy, and then when they have to live that life, it's like, oh no, it's not really what I thought it was going to be, it's not what I want. And that's where the puberty blockers are good, because if they do change their mind, you know, after a couple of years, they just stop taking their puberty blockers and then everything happens as it normally would.
So I've never heard about these puberty blockers. So
it just delays that
but how
onset
long?
of puberty.
I've never heard about it.
While ever you're on those blockers, you won't actually go through puberty.
So it could be years or however long you stop.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I never knew that.
Yeah. There used to be a program at the Princess Margaret Hospital for transgendered kids. So they get registered with the Children's Hospital, and their psychologist and endocrinologist would manage them and help them to get through that.
So just briefly on that, because this is why I'm so looking forward to this show, is that we've got a voice and we can interview people and actually give people advice on where to go, because I know through Pride and Peel that a lot of people are lost. They can't find the right advice. They can't find the doctors. They can't. So, and I think there's a lot of potential for, I'm sure there's doctors and people out there that want to get on board with it, but just don't know how to go about it. So there's all these different issues to deal with, but we can talk about that another time. But yeah, it's definitely, because everyone's got their own journey, as you know. Yeah. And I suppose then on the other end of the spectrum, the puberty blockers would be good, as what the point of them are, which I've only just clicked with, is the there may be people that, like yourself, say for example that you didn't, you thought you were lesbian. What in your head? Growing up, you're going, can I please be a boy? But then you meet the girl, and then you decide, actually, no, I am lesbian. I don't want to become a man. Do you know what I mean? So I
don't know if it was ever that decision.
Not you, but I just mean someone might be. It just gives them a bit more time to establish whether they want to go down that route. Because as you say, well, they're not as easily reversed, these things, are they?
Oh, exactly. I mean, you guys know what you went through when you went through puberty, right? Yeah. So your facial hair starts to grow, your voice starts to drop, you know, your hands become a bit rougher, and you get a lot more body hair and all that sort of thing. Once those things start to happen, it's really hard to reverse that, you know. To get your voice to a high pitch, you can go and get surgery to have your vocal cords shaved. You can get laser surgery on your face so your beard doesn't keep growing.
Yep.
But, you know, that's extra money. That's very painful stuff. If the guys had the hormone blockers when they were young, they wouldn't go through that. Because when we're first conceived as babies, we're all female.
Yeah.
I
suppose.
Female,
never thought about it like that either.
And it's just that.
I love learning things.
That flush of the hormone flush in that first trimester that determines whether your brain is going to be male or female, and then whether your body parts are going to match that. And it doesn't always work out.
We've got a new segment. I've just thought of it.
Great.
If you're listening to this, we've already pre-discussed this, but not live on air. But we should do questions. Like, we should really... I'm sure people have so many questions about all of this stuff.
There's a lot of young people out. I mean, like, back in the day, like I said, I didn't know that girls could transition to boys. I'd heard of guys that had transitioned to female, but they just look like blokes dressed up in a dress. Yeah? So
we've come a long way since then.
Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of that's got to do with a lot of young people coming out, a lot of kids coming out, and their parents actually listening to them.
defending them and getting on board and supporting them,
And the
taking them
internet.
to the right places.
The internet's been a big help. You know, when I was a teenager, there was no internet. I'm 53, by the way, so that's a while ago. So, you know, there was no access to this sort of information, whereas young people these days, they can jump on the internet, they can type in transgender, I don't feel like a boy, or I don't feel like a... And all that information is going to pop up.
Well,
there's
a lot of things are going
more...
to pop up, and they're probably going to need to... There's a bit of sifting they'll need to do to get to the
There's a
information.
lot of diversity in a lot of spaces on the internet that have progressed as well.
But there's a lot more support groups on the
there
internet
is.
as well.
There is.
So a lot more people are being able to connect and have that feeling of, I'm not the only one.
That's so true.
We're going to play a couple of songs, and then we're going to come back and
Have a breather.
do some ooze for a buzz.
Yeah.
Do some zen. Yeah, we're going to do our breathing exercises. And
You boys need to breathe.
in the meantime, we're going to play you Soul Power by Laura.